What if your digital footage could look like it was shot on real film with just one click? This is Dehancer Pro, a film emulation plugin that just works beautifully. I recently went to Melbourne for a quick little 2-day trip to go watch Collingwood absolutely get smashed by Hawthorn, but I decided to bring my camera, get some new test footage to play around with this plugin, and I think it's really cool. Today, I'm simply going to show how the Dehancer Pro plugin works and obviously show the results it gives, which is arguably the most important thing. But without further ado, let's dive right in and see how this plugin works. So I've got my clip here. I just got the same clip for this whole video so we can show some consistency in comparisons between all the film emulation presets and whatnot, just so you guys can get an idea of what you're getting. So I'll apply Dehancer Pro to this clip, and as you can see, it's already popped some lovely film grain and a preset on top as standard, but it doesn't look quite right because I need to set this up because I've shot in log footage on my Panasonic camera, so I need to make sure that is all looking good before I can continue. So what I will do is go to the source up here. Now you'd probably stick with Rec 709 if you already have shot in like a normal standard color profile, but I've got to choose my camera for this case, go Panasonic. Obviously there's all other cameras there to match up with, and I shot on the GH5S. So as you can see, it's brought that contrast back a bit and we are ready to go. Now over here, first up, you can do a bit of exposure correction and color correction. So you got normal sort of exposure adjustments and also color temperature, which you can see affects all that, and your tint of course as well. But for now, I just want to leave this all default because I want to compare all the film emulation presets natively. So here we go. Here is where you can choose your film emulation preset. There is a bunch, as you can see right here. There's a lot. It may be overwhelming. I mean, you can go through one by one and just see which suits. I mean, this is really just going to be sort of color adjustments. You got some black and whites in here that look really nice. I actually really do like the black and whites they got in here. This one looks nice. They're all gonna look pretty good and they're all gonna have their own unique styles. You just gotta find which is which. And obviously once you pick one of these presets, it doesn't have to look exactly like that, you know, the color and the tone. We will be able to adjust all that very shortly. For now, again, I'm gonna stick with the default, which was the Kodak Vision 3. And we're just gonna go from there. Next, we have this film developer section. This can give you a nice sort of contrast and color boost. So once you enable it and bring up that contrast a bit, you can see it really makes it pop. Don't wanna do too much. And you can also boost up the color here, which saturates the image. To me, that's a little bit hectic, but that might be the sort of look you're going for. So I might just leave that there. Next up, we've got this little film compression section. So once you enable this, you can basically sort of try and control your highlights and the exposure tones of your image. So if I want to bring my white point down, I can do that. That really sort of brings the highlights down instead of being clipped like on the other side of the spectrum, sort of just helps that. If I open this up, sort of just brings it all down a bit more like that. See over here, good stuff. And you can also boost the color density to bring in a bit more color as well. And then adjusting the tonal range here sort of affects the whole image. So you can see right here, sort of brings all the highlights down all the way, or you can keep it up a bit. For now, I'm just gonna keep that off because I kind of liked how it was before. So we will move on from there. And here, expand is just some more sort of adjusting your image. Obviously you got your black points and white points as it says. So that sort of brings the blacks down, or you can bring them up for a more faded look. Or same with the white points, you can really boost that to overblow your whites and your highlights, or you can try and bring it back down. Again, for this case, I'm gonna keep it disabled because I like the image as it was before. Now we've got this little print section here. So we can change different profiles of how the print affects the image. As you can see, Sydney Film Log definitely looks a bit more flat. You may want to go for that, but I actually quite like these print film presets from Fujifilm and Kodak. Boom. So as you can see right there, it brings in the whole image and really makes it pop. Same with this Kodak one, it's basically the same, a little bit different. And again, you have a bunch of adjustments, so you can change the target white to a bit more warm or cooler. Again, the whole exposure of the image, if I want to bring it up a bit more. The tonal contrast again, probably don't need to do that because I did that up here. And more color density if you want to make it even more densely saturated. Moving on to this color head section. Here you can inject some color into your shot. So I can bring more cyan to the general image or boost the reds. You know how this all goes, a bit more magenta or green, sort of just shifting those colors. So you can do a little bit there. And then you can also just affect the shadows or the mid-tones for those specific colors. And as you can see, you can get pretty wacky with it for some stylized looks, which honestly, that's pretty cool. But in this case, I'm gonna keep it off for now. Now, this is where it gets really fun to emulate that film look. Obviously, we have our film grain right here and we have a bunch of different presets. So if we go to the lowest, which is 8mm film, it generally has a heavier grain. So if you want this sort of look right here, you can see it's very soft, heavy grain. And if we increase the ISO, it gets even crazier. So I'll just play this for you here. As you can see, it's pretty hectic, but if you want a really noisy image on purpose, obviously that's pretty awesome right there. But if we go on the other side of the spectrum and go, let's meet in the middle and go sort of 35mm. As you can see, it cleans up way more instantly. It's a lot sharper, less soft, but you still have that film grain. I think this is sort of the perfect balance, this 35mm preset. It's all up to your liking, and if you really want to customize it, you can go to the custom section here and you can customize everything. Next up is halation. Now, halation is the red sort of glowy edges around your highlights and stuff. You've probably seen this all over the internet, on Instagram, TikTok, with that trendy sort of film emulation look. And it's probably come from a software like this, if not this itself. Let's enable it right here. And as you can see, you get that red glowy effect around the highlights of your image. And if we want to go super insane, we'll go 8mm. And as you can see, it really blows that out. Again, I like something a bit more subtle, maybe even 65mm, and it's just sort of subtle around these whites and the edges of your image. And of course, you can customize this right down to the T once again. Now we have bloom. So if we enable bloom, as you can see, there's just a general soft glow to the image. Now, I was actually already shooting through a Pro Mist filter, which already gives you this sort of bloomy, gloomy effect. It softens your highlights. But if you don't have a filter, you can just use this in post and it does a pretty solid job. So if you really want to go extreme, you can make that super glowy, maybe for a dreamy sequence or something like that. Or you can go something more subtle once again. Then we've got some film damage. So we can turn this on and get some film damage on our scene. So if I press play, you'll be able to see the scratches and stuff. This is a lot more subtle because I'm on 35. But if I go 8mm, you'll be able to see all the scratches coming up on the screen. And again, you can go in here and customize it as exactly as you want. If you want no scratches, you can do that. If you want no hairs and just dust, you can do that. And you can adjust everything there. It's pretty amazing. Next, we've got this film breath. So if I turn this on, it's probably a bit subtle to see, but you can sort of see the flickering of sort of the color of the image. But this is super subtle from at 35mm. If I switch to 8mm, you'll really be able to see the sort of change in the image. It sort of flickers different tones and temperatures, and that's really extreme. But it really emulates that old film look from old movies and stuff like that. So I think that's a really cool feature. Then we have this section called gate weave. So this will add a bit of camera shake to your footage, which sort of replicates that mechanical action of film rolling. So if I press play here, you'll be able to see a very slight jitter. It's very slight, but if I put this back down to 8mm, you can see the pretty hectic film shake and jitter. And then next we have this overscan section. So if I enable this, straight up you can see it puts an overlay over the top, and you can choose the different gate types to basically show your different scans of film. And this is really cool. You get this classic overlay look that is also pretty popular these days with people trying to emulate film and stuff. I think this is really cool to be built into something like this. Yeah, I'll definitely be using this in the future. And finally, we have some vignetting control. So if we enable this and bring the exposure down to really see the vignette come into play, you can see that there. And even if I bring the feather down all the way, you can really see that shape take place, even to the point where it's literally the full circle, but probably want to soften that off a bit and you get that great vignette look. There is also a quick LUT generator, so you can export the LUT if you like a specific look. You can then put that in your camera and basically shoot with that. That's really handy. And then you also got false color built in here, so you can literally check your exposure. You have all the measurements there. That's pretty cool. And that's basically it. There is so much customization here, but it is not that overwhelming because you have presets for everything that you can just flick through and sort of get the look how you want. So how much does this software cost? The Pro version is definitely on the pricier side of things for a plugin like this. It starts at 59 USD a month, or 299 USD per year, or 549 USD for a lifetime. If I was gonna get something like this, I would try it out first with maybe just one monthly subscription, and then you can cancel it, within the month, just so you have that 1 month trial and you don't have to pay obviously for a full year or lifetime. You can see if it fits in your workflow and works for you before you really invest that much money into it. But they also have other options. They also have Dehancer Lite, which has more limited capabilities, but honestly, it's probably still a very solid choice if you're just trying to replicate film. And then if you feel like you don't need all these features and you just need like some film grain emulation or the halation or the bloom, you can get those plugins separately for a way cheaper price or a way cheaper subscription price. So they do have a lot of flexibility there, which is great. So if you really want to deep dive into transforming your footage into looking like proper film, Dehancer is probably one of the best out there. If you want, you can get 10% off any of these Dehancer products by using my code DRAZE10 in the checkout. You get 10% off. Using this code to get any of these Dehancer products directly supports me and my channel, so I'd greatly appreciate it if you guys do intend to pick up one of these products. I hope this video was a good overall general showcase of the capabilities of Dehancer Pro and the results it can produce. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions, but for now, I'll see you guys in the next video.